Mr. Scott Gimple, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. The Walking Dead Season 10, great success. Fear the Walking Dead Season 6, fantastic. Walking Dead World Beyond, those final few episodes were awesome. So thank you for taking the time to talk about this wild 2020 year of Walking Dead. Listen, there's a lot of things I like about you, Scott. You're a good guy. I know you care about this franchise a lot, and I genuinely appreciate that as well. But one of my favorite things about you is that you're a Lost fan.
Yes.
So listen, Walking Dead World Beyond really kind of dove into these flashbacks. So these flashbacks about characters. Was that your finally your chance to pay an ode to Lost?
I would say it. We went kicking and screaming into them because we didn't want to rip off Lost. And we try to use them in slightly different ways, but. Yeah, I love Lost so much, and we hope. I'm sure they're different.
They're quite different, but I love that. I love how that informs the characters and where they're at in the moment, why they're there.
And I will say, a lot of people said, I think when we left the campus colony, like people were like, "Oh man, I really wanted to see that place," and we did too. We really did want to keep going back there and feeling it.
I find those to be some of the most interesting aspects of this world, kind of the places that survived, how they fell, that kind of stuff. And I just talked to Matt before we talked, the showrunner, and he kind of described the show.
The showrunner, who I've known since I was 18, yes.
Oh, so that's how we get you. We just gotta. Do you want to be friends? Because listen.
Oh, hey, we went to film school together.
Oh, okay.
I think there's been various times in our lives where we've been the boss of each other. He's worked for me, I've worked for him. So this was my turn.
Very cool. Well, that's cool. Yeah. And I talked with him, and he mentioned that kind of World Beyond is now, the way he described it is it's going to be 2 chapters. Like this first season was 1 chapter, and chapter 2, he says, is going to be very different. And I feel like these characters have grown so much, which I feel like is what will most lend itself to season 2 being so different. I'd love to hear from you. What kind of contrast can we expect from the second 10 episodes versus the first 10?
Well, the first 10 are a road show, and there's like a mystery churning under the surface that I think we didn't even know. I think that was, or at least I hope that was part of the success of that twist, is like people really we weren't saying like, hey, wonder about this thing, here's the answer. It was more like, oh, here's the world you think that's happening. Oh, something very different is going on.
Yeah.
In season 2, I think there's a lot of mysteries that you're aware of that are churning under the surface. There's 3 to 4 different worlds. I didn't know whether to count one of them as like a whole world or it was like Pluto. But there's like 3 very, very different worlds. Technically, you might be able to say 4. And they're incredibly contrasted from one another. And our characters will exist in these different worlds and crash together in different ways. And so, they're not all walking on this great journey with each other. Rather, they're inhabiting places that are very different and in some ways in conflict with each other. Right. And it's defining them very differently. And that can be a problem with how close these characters are, to sort of be on suddenly different teams.
It's interesting. I love the twist at the end with Annette as Huck / Jennifer. Annette played a spy before, and I don't know how we didn't see this coming. It was right. Her last job. It was right there. But that was such a good twist. I love that. And listen, so as like Walking Dead now has an end date in mind. World Beyond has had an end date in mind. Has the destination for World Beyond changed at all, or are you guys kind of already like you've had this ending in sight, and despite this year's delays and kind of changes, you're sticking with that?
We weren't, we knew it was going to be a defined end to that show. We had played around with the amount of time we were going to take to do it, and even the amount of episodes. It's 10 episodes a season, World Beyond. Yeah. That's different than Walking Dead. That's not as big a commitment to an audience. And so, I think an audience might be whoa, that went by so quick. And it certainly has felt a little claustrophobic to us as far as story goes. So we have, sometimes been like, ooh, maybe maybe 3 would have been the sweet spot. But we knew where the endings generally were. And we're getting there in sort of different ways. And, when we were making the show, when we were airing this show, a lot of that has changed from circumstances that are beyond everyone's control. So we're just rolling with the whole thing. We love these characters and we want to get them to the places that we intended.
Yeah. Well, I have to ask you, is that Rick Grimes?
You know what? I'm very happy to say I'm not happy to say the answer. I'm happy to be definitive with people. It is not.
Okay.
I'm not going to be, that's one, I don't know if people are being cagey about that, but I feel that one's important not to be cagey about. Sure, I think people could watch this show and learn a lot about the mythology that Rick Grimes is caught up in, and they might even see places where Rick Grimes has been. But yeah, he's not like swinging around the corner. And I don't even know if I'm making people upset saying that, but I just don't like people watching it sort of expecting.
Yeah, I mean, it's smart to set the right expectation. That's smart. I think that's a good move.
But people will learn a lot about the world that Rick is entangled in.
Okay, cool.
And so I think there is a great benefit to that.
Very cool. So I also want to talk to you about the other shows with Fear the Walking Dead. I mean, Fear the Walking Dead season 6 has been phenomenal. I mean, every episode I'm like, is this the one where and everyone
is this the finish the thought, Brandon.
Every episode is so good. And I mean, I might think after like 3 or 4, I was like, is 5 going to be the first not great episode this season? And then 6, and each one was great. And like, it's hard for any show to be that consistent. I mean, we can go back to our love of Lost, and I can even find some terrible episodes in that show. But
no, it's funny. I'm doing a rewatch right now with my wife, and it is funny to see those because I don't remember those at all. You
just have to skip the Nikki and Paolo episode. You just have
they just showed up, and I was like, oh dear, this is interesting.
Yeah, no, but it's been so fantastic. But of course, it ended one episode earlier than originally planned because 2020 has let none of us go as planned. So does that mean kind of when it comes back, like 608 is going to be this big, what would have been mid-season finale with kind of a week-to-week cliffhanger that kind of comes with those sort of breaks? Like, how does that work?
I'm just going to say 608 is a huge episode. Just the ramifications of it, the emotion of it, the intensity of it. I know why we didn't get it done. I mean, it was because but I just saw like the totally finished cut, like everything we could get together, and I can't wait for people to see it. It's a really, really good episode. And there's a couple of sequences in there that I still think about, that I knew what they were on the page. We had talked about them, but to see how they came out was just,
I can't wait.
Yeah. Mikey Satrazemis, man.
He's been phenomenal. And I mean, this applies to Fear, and this also applies to World Beyond. The main characters who are supposed to be our family that we're following, they're all at odds with each other on both of these shows. Why does that? And it's taken me back to like Shane and Rick, and how much we loved that drama, and it gives you that same feeling. Why do you think that makes for such good storytelling when the characters you love are at odds with each other?
I mean, I think it leads to conversation. I think whether it's hard to pick a side. I mean, going all the way back to Rick and Shane, it was like, well, who's right? Who would I be? And they both have good. I mean, that's really the best one, though, when they both have good arguments.
Clark and Steve Rogers, right there. It's the same,
Or Dr. Shepard and Mr. Locke. I mean. You get to see the world through two sides that you both like. Conflict. I don't think conflict is necessarily the total engine of story. I think changes, but to see it on its feet, it works, and it's been great. And I will say, last season, season 5, it's interesting. I mean, everybody was trying to be on the same page. These characters all wanted the same thing, which was redemption, and they were doing something benevolent, and it was about all this light, all this positivity, all this brightness. And by the end of the season, they all get totally clobbered for it and destroyed, and it truly does kill Morgan. It kills him.
Morgan dead.
Yeah, and we knew that we wanted to have this next season. We knew those two sides of it. They were going to have this brightness. They were going to fail, and then the Empire was going to strike back. And it's been interesting to see how much people love seeing the rough stuff. The conflict, the darkness, the pain. It's been very cool. We've been, we were understandably nervous about it in some ways, because it was like, man, this is rough. Everybody's at each other's throats.
Yeah.
But also the different structure, the anthological structure. We definitely have felt more confident about the stories, like, Dory and June, who was Laura at that point, and Alicia and Charlie, I believe it's 609, we were like, we should do like a whole season of stories like that. And that was how we approached it.
Yeah. And so my last thing on the fear front is a question I'm sure I'm probably not the only person asking you, but it's probably the one question you can answer for nobody. But of course, Alicia mentioning the stadium, I don't know if you read what's on the internet. They went crazy thinking there's a chance we might get an indication of Madison being out there, Kim Dickens coming back in a flashback or something. What can you say to the people who are on such speculation trains that Madison is out there somewhere?
Keep hope alive. No, I mean, I was in a chat for New York Comic Con, I think. I don't usually, I don't know. I don't usually have Q&As directly with the fans like that. I mean, I don't know why it just doesn't come up that much, which is something I should ask people about. But it was weird to be in that because, there were a lot of questions about Madison, and it really is, it's true that we're kicking a lot of things around, not just within, we've had discussions, Fear, we've had discussions, with Tales of the Walking Dead, and then even within the Walking Dead universe, there's all sorts of possibilities. We investigate the past a lot in stories, especially with Tales of the Walking Dead. So, I mean, if it were all to come together, it'd be amazing. But there's some things floating around that are truly awesome.
Well, I think Tales of the Walking Dead sounds like one of the most exciting projects you guys have coming up. I can't wait to see what you guys do with that. Is there any timetable on when Tales might start moving?
I'm hoping actually, to have some information into the new year. We're just sort of trying to sequence it with the rest of the things we're working on. But it's been announced. It's a serious endeavor right now. But as far as the when of it all, we're getting closer to that.
Yeah. And so, speaking of these anthology things like Tales, like Fear, The Walking Dead has these 6 episodes coming. And we just found out Robert Patrick is in it. Hillary Burton is in it. I think we're going to get some really diverse types of episodes there on all sorts of fronts. What can you tell me about, because it seems like we're getting Maggie stuff. We're getting Negan backstory about the kind of when and where we can expect these episodes to take place.
Well, it's in the aftermath of 10A and 10B. Right. It is a part of that story. It's connected to all that. Even here's Negan obviously has to do with Negan's backstory, but even then, that is directly connected to the story coming out of season 10. Yeah. These episodes, there were 6 episodes, 6 weeks. They were written in we had to go right at it. And Angela, the staff, some writers from the past, from Walking Dead past, some people who came back to actually work on them.
That's cool.
Everybody just gave it their all. And like Fear the Walking Dead, they're concentrated stories because they're shot in a way where we only have a couple of characters that we're focusing on. And I just love those kind of stories.
Yeah.
And it's weird for all of the intensity and fire that was under everyone to turn out as well as, they're amazing. And that Here's Negan is an incredible episode. It's really strange, the circumstances, how this all came together. But these 6 episodes are going to be something that I think people are going to really, really enjoy. And
I can't wait to see.
Initially, I looked upon it as sort of like an acoustic set, but it's so much more than that. I guess it's still a rock concert, but it's very intimate. It's like you got into a show like you're 50 people at the Whiskey seeing the Rolling Stones.
I can't wait to see those episodes, man.
I'm sure the kids reading this article will be like, rolling who?
What? All the young people we just recruited with the World Beyond episodes are going to be. Okay, and so as I let you go, man, so with Walking Dead coming to an end, World Beyond coming to an end, the Rick Grimes movie on the horizon, and Fear finishing up 6, maybe going into 7. I expect there will be a 7th, I'm sure. Is this kind of like what Marvel did with the Infinity Saga coming to an end? Like, is this kind of going to like roll it into a next phase, like with Tales and Daryl Carroll? Like, how would you describe are we at a transition period for this franchise, in 2022 in the near future?
I think it's a little different. Like, Marvel is, I say this as a fan. I haven't been in on the meetings, but it's like their whole next chapter. It's a whole new thing. It's going to be all these new faces. With Walking Dead, it's a mix. We have the Carol Daryl show, which in some ways is the centerpiece of what's moving forward. Tales, on the other hand, is completely different. There isn't even a regular cast of that show. I think there's going to be a mix of like old favorites in various ways, whether they be specials, whether they be miniseries, whether they be on Tales, and then things like Carol and Daryl, and rolled out in a way that we're not oversaturating people with it, but letting people have a steady flow of The Walking Dead in their lives. That's our goal, and we want that to be both very different, and then some of those familiar faces. It's like there's reinvention of the existing, and then there's the new stuff.
Very cool.
So I think people have a real bright future ahead who love Walking Dead. They're gonna have a real variety with a steady flow for their lives. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, I'll show you this. I had to move this over here. This here. Oh, pardon me. This is the bullet that got Sophia.
Wow. Yeah. Here I was thinking I was cool for having a bullet from the day I was a zombie. I don't know if I should say that, but I did take a bullet from the ground.
All right.
But that's a much cooler bullet. That is awesome.
I remember I was just sitting there. I have a bag of them in the dirt, but I made sure prop master John Sanders made sure he had the one that was the final shot. So.
That's pretty cool. Well, there you go, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking. Actually, I have one last thing.
Yeah.
There's a portion of the fans who will kill me if I don't ask this, and they're so loving and affectionate.
We are still working on the movie. It is proceeding.
Actually, I know that the movie is always in flux, so I wasn't going to ask that. I was going to say, have we seen the last of Richonne?
Oh, I really don't think so. I just said we were working on the movies. You asked that question. We'll leave it at that. But
I love it. I love it, man.
And there's, it's weird. I was talking to somebody this afternoon. People should pay attention to the way that Michonne left the show.
King Bach came.
There's something going on there. Yeah, King Bach was there. We probably haven't seen the end of him either. It was King Bach for a reason.
Right.
But that was a pretty big group she was with.
So you're saying TikTok exists in the apocalypse?
Yeah, that guy would have had. Yeah, and then imagine those two King Box and the different lives they've had. The one in our universe is having decidedly less fun.
Well, I love it, man. Well, thank you so much for talking. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, man.
It's great to talk to you.
If you need a star for a Tales episode, I will die on the spot. Let me know. I'm ready to go.
You're
not my head off.
You're encore.